This week, I'm starting my first Dragonbane campaign. In preparation, I'm making some pre-gen characters for the players to choose from. The very first video on this channel was an unboxing of Dragonbane, and since then, this game has grown on me exponentially. I really like it. The rule set is simple and tight, but nuanced, with every choice in character creation seeming to have a meaningful impact on the game. If you like games with old school sensibilities but modern mechanics, I think you'll like this too. But this isn't a review. Today, we're creating a Dragonbane character. So what we're going to do to start off with is choose a kin. So we're going to be rolling on the kin table to start this process, and it is a d12. And as you can see, the options are human, halfling, dwarf, elf, mallard, and wolfkin. So here's our d12. And we've got a 5. So 5 is a halfling. Halfling. So it has a general kind of write-up about them. And their ability is hard to catch, which is 3 willpower points. And it says you can activate this ability when dodging an attack, getting a boon, which is kind of like a you'd roll 2d20 to the evade roll. So it's kind of like 5th edition where you get an advantage. Basically, it's basically the same mechanic, which is cool. So we've written hard to catch there. I like to these are all pre-gens, and I like to make it simpler for whoever's playing. So I'm actually going to note the page for that too. So page 11 on the rulebook, and evade is a skill, which is just there. So we'll get to the skills in a second. But yeah, that's cool. That's not bad. And then the will point cost is 3 for that. So you'll have a pool of will point, which we'll get to again later. But that's the kind of the kin ability, or the racial ability, if we're thinking of it as D&D. The next step is to move into profession. So this section here details profession. And again, we could roll this up. I'm kind of thinking I might make a mage, just because I haven't done that. But, you know, I could go with a thief, just because it's a halfling, and maybe we'll make it a little bit stereotypical. You can see that there's 10 different professions or classes, if we're talking in D&D terms: artisan, bard, fighter, hunter, knight, mage, mariner, merchant, scholar, thief. And in my opinion, all of these are really cool. So maybe rather than picking, what we'll do is actually we'll roll up our attributes and just see where the dice fall on these attributes, and decide, you know, what sort of character we might play based on that. We can switch 2 abilities around. That does give us a little bit of flexibility as we create this character, but you know, sometimes I just like rolling dice, so maybe we'll just do that. Now, most people would be familiar with this method of character creation, because you're using 4d6 and you're dropping the lowest. So let's see what we got, and it's in order, so it's really old school, which is cool. Let's roll and see what we get. Oh, that's pretty terrible. That went off the table, but I will re-roll that. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 for strength. Another one got 11, and that's a 12. 12. Oh, that's okay. I got 14 for that one. 6, 10, 14 for agility. God, what have we got for intelligence? You know, maybe this is just a sign this needs to be a mage. 3 6s are 18. Will 7, 8, 9. That's not great. And then charisma 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So again, not great. So I haven't really delved too much into the mage rules, but I do know that will is quite an important determinant of spell casting, I think. Let me just check that. To cast a spell, you must spend willpower points and roll against your skill in the relevant skill. Okay. So I think what we're going to need to do in this case is, I'm thinking we switch agility and wisdom. So those are the 2 we switch. Someone in the comments might also know whether or not like when they say you can switch two of these around, whether they mean like you're just switching two, as in I'm going to switch agility and will, or whether you can actually switch like two, as in we'll do a switch there and then do another switch. Is that two, or is it just switching two around? Anyway, we're going to be a bit more brutal with this and just assume that you can just switch places with one. This is going to become 14, which is kind of good, and then that one there is going to become 9. So we're going to be a mage. The key attribute is will. One of the things that definitely harkens back to a more old school style of play is that the age of the character has an impact on, well, just how good or bad they are at stuff. So here we go. Depending on age, you can get bonus skills if you're older. And again, depending on age, you can either get bonuses to some attributes, or you can get penalties and bonuses if you're old. The adult doesn't impact with that. And when you're picking skills, which we'll be doing pretty soon, 6 of those have to be skills derived from your profession. And then any of these bonus ones can be whatever you want. So that's just a d6 roll, and we're going to do that right now and just see how old this character is. The outcome is that this is a young character with 6 regular skill, or 6 core skills plus 2, and they've got a bonus to agility and con. So agility is bumped up to 10, and then con is going to go from 12 to 13. This is actually, this is ending up okay. So I've got 11, 13, 10, 18, 14, 9 for our attributes. We also have all of our derived ratings for skills and stuff. We can fill some of that in now. We are a halfling, so we've got 8 movement, or 8 meters movement, and then depending on agility, you might get a bonus or penalty. So we're at 10 agility. There's no bonus or penalty. So 10, 11, and 12 give no bonus or penalty. So we've just got the default movement for a halfling, which is 8. So we'll fill in this movement box here, 8 meters. If you've got a high agility or a high strength, you can get a damage bonus of either plus d4 or plus d6. So neither of those apply in our case because both our strength and agility is sitting at 11 and 10 respectively, which, as you can see, is giving us no damage bonus. So we're just going to leave these 2 sections here blank. I suppose we could just put a little dash in there. And this is a d20 table, and it gives a bunch of weaknesses for the character that you're rolling up. And we'll see what we get. 20. Okay. In Dragonbane, that would normally be bad, so I'll be interested to see what it says on the table. Haughty. I look down on everyone I meet. Well, that's fair enough, because you're a halfling who's a mage, and you just know better than everyone, so that makes sense. You're a smart, haughty halfling. Is that how you spell haughty? I think it is. And then we can roll a memento, which is in this section here. So let's roll our memento. 8. So what's an 8? 8 is a copper coin from a treasure sought by your mother or father. A copper coin from a treasure sought by your mother or father. Strange. So copper coin sought by mother. Okay, so maybe you've stolen from them. I don't know. That's a bit of an interesting one. Kind of strange, actually. I'm not sure I quite understand it. Like, maybe did you steal it from them, or anyway? There's an appearance table, so let's roll on that a couple of times. I usually do 2 rolls on this just to kind of get a vibe going. Players can take that with a grain of salt, I guess. 8 again. Abnormal amounts of body here. I actually got that for another character, so I think I'm gonna leave that off. Although that would be kind of funny. 6. A little bit of extra weight around the middle. Okay, so that's not unusual for a halfling, and we'll do another roll. 16. A silver tooth. I like that. Okay, so I'll just write, what are we going to write? A bit fat and a silver tooth. All right. So the other thing that we have to generate is our willpower points and our hit points. Now, the willpower points are taken directly from wisdom, or willpower, whatever it is. So it's just a 1-for-1. So here we've got 14, and we're just going to, so that's for the willpower, so we've got 14, and that's going to help us with our spell casting. And then the hit points is just a 1-for-1 from our con. So if you remember, we have 13 con. So we just literally fill that in as the same. So basically, inventory is half your strength, and I think it's rounded up. We're going to look at our strength, which is 11, and round it up. So I suppose that's 6 items. So we can have 6 items in our inventory here. Some of the stuff isn't going to count as, in our inventory, won't count as inventory items. It will actually count as being worn or carried. And we're going to look at the mage. So in terms of the mage gear, you'll see there that there's three choices. And we're going to roll again because I find that just, I don't know, a bit more fun. So get our D6, give it a roll. 5. So this is the pack that we have. An amulet, a grimoire, sleeping pouch, torch, flint and tinder, D6 food rations, and D8 silver. But I'll have to look up the amulet later and just see whether that actually has, like, you know, whether it's just has any kind of in-game use, or whether it's just decorative. But I'll just write it in there for now. And then we've got food rations. So we've got D6 food rations, so 3. And then we have D8 silver. So this mage is actually more wealthy than quite a few. So again, we'll roll D8 for that. So he has, or he or she, because I guess it's a pre-gen, has 4 silver. I'll write that in the silver section here. So we've got 4. And actually, I see here that flint and tinder is a tiny item. So we can actually move that and take out one of those items in our inventory. So we've actually opened up an inventory slot, which is great. This character doesn't come with any weapons by default. I went ahead and looked up amulet just to see what that does. So it can be used as a focus for spells. All right, now we have to get to the kind of the final part, really. If we have a bit of extra, I may buy this guy a staff. Mages can't use metal items really, so probably just get him or her a club or a staff or something like that. But we'll do the skills now, because as I said, the skills usually take the longest time. I've never done a mage either, so we'll see how this section goes. So okay, before we actually go any further with this, it says that you must select a school of magic, either animism, elementalism, or mentalism, and that set becomes your trained skills. And you can choose 3 rank 1 spells and 3 magic tricks. And it has to be from your school or general magic category. What I think would be good before we actually choose out of these 3 is to have a look at what these respective schools do. Alright, so animism. The world is alive, it's full of spirits and gods, everything has a soul. The spirits are neither good or evil. They may not be omnipotent, but they possess great power and should be treated with respect. All things in the universe consist of 4 elements, so yeah, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Wind, water, earth, and fire. And then mentalism, mentalists believe that your mind and body are the center of the universe, and by controlling that, you can gain control of your body and the magic that flows through it and the world. So my leaning is towards elementalism or animism, but I think I'm going to make an elementalist. I think that at the moment is kind of most exciting to me. So this mage is an elementalist, so we've written that there. We also need to choose their spells. So let's start by looking at the elementalism chapter. In terms of magic tricks, we have heat, chill, ignite, puff of smoke, and then in terms of rank 1, fireball, pillar, shatter, frost, and gust of wind. So not a heap to choose from, but remember we can also choose general as well, general spells. So let's look at general magic and see what we've got here. So in terms of general magic, we have magic tricks: fetch, flick, light, open close, repair clothes, and sense of magic. I think ignite and puff of smoke is suitably thematic for this elementalist. And then we have one more that I think we could get from magic trick. I mean, the door one's quite useful. Ignite, Puff of smoke, and then we've got one more that I think we're going to take from this general list here. So I think this sense magic would be quite useful, but I also like this open and close, so it's kind of hard to choose between those. I think sense magic would be more pervasively useful. I think that would be something that would be quite good to have in this particular game, so I think we're going to go with sense magic. Alright, sense magic, and then we are going to now choose our level 1 spells, or rank 1 I should say. In general magic we've got Dispel, Protector, Magic no that's rank 2, so there's actually only two rank 1 spells, Protector and Dispel. Okay, well that's interesting to know. So let's go to the Elementalist section. Fireball, and that's pretty good. That Frost is quite good too. Some pretty cool stuff in here. Quite different as well from like D&D. I think that Frost is awesome, so we're going to go Frost. And we've got 2 more to choose, which is hard. That Shatter's cool too, because if you could break someone's weapon, because in this game weapons have kind of a durability to it, so you could actually break someone's weapon, although it is a touch attack, which makes the person quite vulnerable. That Protect is pretty good too, and I think that may be quite useful, so I think I might take that Protector one. And I think we've got one more to choose, and I think it's definitely got to be from this lot here. That Gust of Wind's pretty awesome as well. Yeah, let's do Gust of Wind. It's kind of still icy themed, which I kind of like, so kind of fits that. So last rank 1 spell will be Gust of Wind, which is an Elementalist spell. All right, nice. So this is the core of our spell stuff done, and then the only stuff that we need to do now is the skills. So back at this Elementalist skills, we have Elementalism, we have Awareness, Evade, Healing, Languages, Myths and Legends, Spot, and Staves, or Staves, depending on how you pronounce that. I think we definitely want to take some ranks in Staves. Remember, we're young, so we get D6 plus 2 skills, so 8 skills total that we can be trained in. Elementalist we've already taken, so that's 1. A second one that I definitely want to take is Staves, or Staves, because I think that'll be useful. So we're going to take that as a skill. We are going to take Healing. That is definitely going to be useful. We're going to take Myths and Legends. We're going to take Evade. I think Spot Hidden would be good. And now we've got 2 more that we could choose from. So we could choose 2 that aren't on that sort of core set of skills. I kind of like the idea maybe of taking Sleight of Hand, although our agility isn't great, so we do have to kind of think about whether or not that's worth doing. Persuasion, I mean, we've got a low charisma. I was thinking that could be kind of good. I think we're going to put some ranks in Persuasion anyway, even though they're not that charismatic. It probably would be worth just having someone trained in that in the party, because the other characters that I've made so far don't have any of that. And then I think for the last one, we're going to go Awareness, because I think that could be quite useful. So as you can see, each attribute gets a base chance depending on what it is. So let's just say you have 10 in an attribute, you would have a base chance of 5. And that's untrained, so you can try any skill besides magic. You have to be trained in magic, but you can do any skill with the base chance of your attribute. If you have expertise, if you're trained in that skill, you double that. We're going to start with Acrobatics. Now, Acrobatics is untrained, and it's based on our agility. So if we have 10 agility, the base chance for Acrobatics is 5. So we have 5, and that's the same. That applies to every agility skill listed here that is untrained. So for instance, bows will also be 5. Evade is trained, so that'll actually be double. So it'll be 10. Hunting and fishing will be 5 because it's untrained. Riding is 5. Sleight of hand is 5. Sneaking is 5. Swimming is 5. Crossbows is 5. Knives is 5. Slings is 5. Staves will be 10. because it's trained. Now the next thing that we're going to do that's on this list is awareness. So that's an intelligence-based one. Luckily we've got a really high intelligence of 18, which actually grants us a bonus or base chance of 7. So anything untrained is going to be 7. Anything that is trained will be 14, which is excellent. We're going to start with awareness. So that's trained. So that is actually going to be 14. Beast Law, which will be 7 because that's untrained. We have Bushcraft, which is also 7. Healing, which would be 14. So that's great. That's really good to have a character with high healing in the party. Languages will be 7 because it's untrained. Myths and Legends is trained, so that'll be 14. Seamanship will be 7. So maybe a bit of experience on a boat, but not really trained. Spot Hidden will be 14. The next thing on the list is bartering. So that's charisma based. And if you remember, we have a charisma of 9. Now, a charisma of 9 grants us a base chance of 5. Bluffing, which is also charisma, will be 5. Performance will be 5. Persuasion is trained, so that'll double, remember, that's 10. Now, if you remember, our strength is 11, so again, that's not particularly high. The base chance of that is 5 as well. So any untrained strength-based skills, we can now pretty obviously just see that those are all going to be 5s. Okay. The last one here is elementalism, and that ability is based on will, on wisdom. So a 14 wisdom is pretty good. That is 6. It's trained, so that's going to be 12. So that's a will based skill because it's if you remember with the mage, the main attribute is will. So again, if you look at this, we probably could have actually done 18 will there, and it would have helped us a little bit with, well, probably a decent amount with spell casting. But I don't know, whatever. All of these skills that we've got on 14 are pretty good. These are all very useful for the game, and I think that's pretty decent. The only other thing that I might do for this character is buy a staff for them, and you'll just fill that in. You just write staff. It would be probably two-handed. It would give sort of a range of that. It would list the damage. We don't get any damage bonuses, remember. But if you did have a high strength or agility, you potentially would get a damage bonus when you're using that weapon. It has a durability, so how tough that item would be, and then there's certain features to weapons that can have quite a big bearing in combat. It's pretty cool. Again, it's like what would just be a one-liner in, like, say, 3rd edition, or a descriptor in most editions of D&D, is actually has mechanical, these features have mechanical bearing on the game. So that's making a character in Dragonbane. You've got to remember that this is the most complex character that you're going to make because it's a spellcaster. You know, if you're doing just a fighter or something like that, 15 minutes, you could probably make a character in 15 minutes pretty easily. And I've slowed things down a bit just to give a better sense of, you know, just going through it and understanding how these impact skills and just how everything links together. The age has quite a big bearing. Like, the thing I really like about Dragonbane character creation and just Dragonbane generally is everything has meaning within this. It's quite simple, but there's a lot of, like, everything's related in some way, and everything has implications. Like, being old isn't not just that you're old. There are actual implications to your character. And yeah, I'm really excited to dig into Dragonbane. The adventures looks pretty cool. The campaign, I'm going to be running the campaign just straight out of the box set. I've made some pre-gens for the players. And yeah, I'll keep everyone posted because I think this is a game that a lot of my audience might like if you're into that kind of older school but modern kind of approach, which I think is where I'm at the moment. You know, like, I like old school stuff, but I think at the same time this really does provide a bit of kind of innovation, I suppose, and just some cool game design. So there you have it. That's Dragonbane character created. Hopefully this is useful to people, and hopefully you've enjoyed coming along for the ride. See you in the next one.